Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I wanted to pop on and at least showcase. My name is Leanne, and I want to go ahead and have us dive in. We have a lot of good stuff to cover today. So today, what we are going to learn are the best workplace wellness practices that I have seen create positive impact within organizations. So you are in the right place if you want to walk away with tangible action items you can start implementing immediately to help create a culture of sustainable well-being, using employee well-being and engagement as a catalyst for organizational thriving and growth. So sounds good, yes? And you're going to want to make sure you stay until the end, because at the end I am giving out a free link to my HC3 assessment tool. So at the end, I'm going to ask you to submit your email so I can personally send you your organization's own assessment tool designed to gauge current levels of well-being and engagement within your organization. So I will send you the email. All you have to do is copy, paste, send it out to your staff. This assessment tool helps us determine where we're at and therefore what practices our organization will benefit the most from. So of course you don't have to stay until the end, but I obviously highly recommend that you do. So first things first, what is well-being at work, right? There are so many ways to define it, and here's my favorite. It's a systematic approach, emphasis on the systematic, right, to getting our people back to the very things that they're made to do. And here's what I mean by this. Physically, our bodies are made for movement. Yet a lot of our current workplaces have most people sitting throughout the day. We are designed to be in connection with one another, right? We all know this. Our brains release dopamine every time we connect with others in a meaningful way. Yet, unfortunately, our workers report feeling disconnected, and lots of them report feeling way too burnt out to even prioritizing things like nurturing relationships. Our bodies are made to eat real, whole food, and yet most of our workplaces are filled with whatever is the quickest, easiest things to get our hands on that do us more harm than good in the long run. But when we, simply put, can get back to what makes us more human, aka what makes us well, both us as individuals and collectively as an organization reap substantial benefits. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, this sounds great, right? But can this actually be done? We're slammed, we're already stretched thin and understaffed. How are we supposed to add even more to our plates? Besides, how do you measure something like employee well-being? Maybe it sounds a little esoteric. Or how do you measure how many heart attacks you prevent? Or what about those employees who just don't want to engage? For anyone out there who's like, yeah, we've tried this stuff, we've brought in wellness programming before, and not that many people took advantage of it. If you relate to this one, you're not alone. As one study found that only a quarter of employees that have access to well-being services make use of them. So trust me, I get the reservation. And this is why I have devoted my work to producing tangible, quantifiable benefits to human and organizational well-being, to the betterment of our people and therefore our organization. And here is what I have found. Lack of knowledge is not the issue. Think about it. We've never had more access to knowledge at our own fingertips in every moment about how to be well and healthier and more engaged, productive, and even happier. We have the knowledge, it's just not translating, as 78% of the world's population now reports not being engaged in their work. And 83% of US workers suffer from work-related stress. More specifically, according to the National Council of Mental Wellbeing, 93% of behavioral healthcare workers have experienced burnout, and 62% report their level of burnout between an 8 to 10 on a 10-point scale. In addition, 70% of them report trouble with sleep, 68% report physical exhaustion, 63% report work-related dread, and over half of them report fluctuations in their appetite, questioning their career path, and compassion fatigue. Unfortunately, as we know, These symptoms result in disengaged employees, right? Which now cost businesses between 450 to 500 billion annually due to increased rates of absenteeism, turnover, and reduced output. And I believe even worse than this is how it impacts the level of care that we're able to provide. Studies have found that the same employees who report the symptoms just identified, such as compassion fatigue, are those who are shown to be cold and distant with patient needs. These levels of burnout and compassion fatigue are at an all-time high. Now, do y'all see this too? I assume that's part of the reason why you tuned in today. But I believe you also tuned in because you know it doesn't have to be this way. What if there were really things we could do that would make a difference, that would help make our humans well, personally and professionally? And these are things that we can do something about with the right systems in place, and that we can achieve positive changes without changing the fundamentals of who we are as people or as an organization. And that having these systems in place is so important, because if the number of engaged employees were to rise to just 50%, workplaces everywhere would transform, and so would the world. So for those of you who don't know, again, my name is Leanne, and I get to do this for a living, but I want to fill you in on a quick background story here on really what got me into this work and so passionate about it. I was once, a long time ago, a Division I college athlete who sustained a career-ending knee injury, and to cope with that, I started turning to food, even though my first degree was in exercise science with a minor in health and wellness. I knew better, but that knowing didn't translate to my behavior. Now, this really fascinated with me, and I saw it with my clients I was working with at the time too, that people didn't need to be told what to do. They needed help getting the right systems in place, tools and support to help them put their knowing or their knowledge into action, into doing. And luckily, I found and implemented those systems for myself, and now my work today lies in sharing those systems and tools with both individuals and organizations to close that knowing and doing gap to optimize well-being and therefore produce positive results. I've gotten to work with organizations such as the Military Sea Lift Command, Simplifying America's Fund, MTM, and a lot more just like MTM. In fact, these are some post-programming findings from the work I've done with some MTM staff. And today I want to give you tangible action items you can take with you so you can produce similar positive changes within your organization. So now I hope you see, one, my genuine passion for this work, and two, why I am so excited to share it with you today. So give me a 1 in the chat box if you are ready to dive in, because I know I am. And as you are doing that, I want to revisit my goal from our time together today is, simply put, again, to share best practices to help you create a lasting culture of well-being within your organization. We see some ones coming into, which is really awesome. Now, this is so important because our staff is what makes our organization, right? And when we engage and support our staff, we engage and support our client population too. I can't tell you how many organizations I work with who admit to initially neglecting this staff support piece, or admit to just putting it on the back burner for a little, like sometimes we even do with our own health. But as we know, it catches up. And then later they're like, hey, our staff are really struggling. We need a more systematic approach to providing them with the right support. And I love seeing leaders take this initiative to support their staff because it engages our people. And studies have shown that engaged employees miss 20% fewer days of work, are 17% more productive, can increase profitability by 21%. These are people who boost workplace morale, they provide better customer service, and they more than double our odds of success. And they create teams that look like this. Teams who are connected, who know how to navigate obstacles, and are made up of healthy, engaged individuals. And this is what I want for your organization. So with that, in the remainder of our time together, we are going to uncover the components of what makes our people, and therefore our organization, well. And I have converted these factors of staff well-being into measurable KPIs that we can track initially and over time. So here we go, KPI number 1. Only 1 out of every 4 employees would strongly agree that their opinion matters at work. And here is why this is problematic. Employees have told me that this makes them feel disempowered at work. And as a result, both their work and their well-being suffers. And not feeling like our opinions matter at work is a key factor in burnout, right? And burnout is the antidote to engagement. So first, how do we even know if our staff feels this way? So to know, we must ask, right? There's no way around this, and this is why I want to share my HC3 assessment tool with you all, because it measures all the physical and psychological components of well-being. And the first one it measures are our employees' opinions and expectations. Distributing this kind of assessment tool is twofold. 1, it sends our people the message, hey, we value your opinion here. And 2, if we want to grow, we have to know where we're strong and what exactly we're looking to improve. Now, when I work with organizations, after distributing this to staff, I'll then create a 40+ page report, like I'm showing you here, that highlights their organization's strong points and identifies their employee pain points and provides multiple solutions for each pain point identified. And here is what I want you to take from this. If you are considering bringing in any kind of wellness programming, these are 2 critical questions to ask that potential vendor, right? So the first one, hey, how do you personalize your program to meet the unique needs of my people? And 2, how do you track success over time? Now, if they cannot give you a clear answer to both, then run, right? But anyway, so say we measured and we found out that our organization isn't tracking in this category for optimal success. Now what? Well, if step 1 was to assess, step 2 is to address. And here's how we can do that. So first, we want to train ourselves and our leadership to be constantly scanning the environment for opportunities to seek input. So in passing, this sounds like, hey, Amy, what are your thoughts on what went well in that meeting? And what do you think we could have done differently? And a lot of times these moments occur right before and after meetings, right? And honestly, who cares if this runs 2 or 3 minutes into our meeting? Then we're really showing our people, hey, we put people before productivity, and this is good. This is what we want, right? Another way to address this is by taking a more systematic approach. 1, by setting an assessments, which we just covered, and 2, hosting focus groups. Focus groups send the message, I want to hear from you. And when they're done correctly, we gain valuable insight from them and then turn that feedback into opportunity for the organization. And we can do these in-house. But first, as we know, it can be challenging to get employees to want to participate in focus groups or in lots of wellness programming services, right? So here's how we can address this. If you are doing this in-house, if you're doing it within your organization, it may be offering a free, healthy, you know, I had to get that word healthy in there, lunch during these focus groups. And what I do, and this is drumming up engagement, right? Now, what I do to drum up engagement is I provide each staff member who attends with their own personalized self-development ebook. This is called Thrivenomics, a user's guide to what makes me thrive. So what we're doing here is we're providing an extrinsic motivator first to drum up engagement. And then once they've joined, it's our job to start providing the tools to boost their intrinsic motivation, which is what I'm doing here in these playbook that each staff member receives. Now, if you want the layout for how you can do this on your own, I would be happy to share it with you. Just shoot me an email after this. And P.S., this is a formula for any wellness programming, right? Extrinsic motivators first to drum up engagement, followed up by tools that will boost intrinsic motivation. Now, keeping this in mind, extrinsic first, then intrinsic, this also helps address the most common barriers that keep our people from participating in wellness programming, such as low feelings of self-efficacy, In addition, by providing them with these kind of incentives, we're letting them know, hey, these focus groups are not just for the organization to gather feedback, they're for you too, to walk away with a free lunch or your own personalized self-development tool. And this way, right off the bat, we're sharing information that helps them see, hey, I can really get something from this. And when we send these positive messages to our people, doubling the ratio of employees who strongly agree that their opinion matters at work, we can produce a 10% increase in productivity, and employees who feel their voice is heard are 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered to perform their best work. That's why these practices are so powerful. All right, before we shift into the next KPI, I want to launch a poll question, which you should see up on your screen now. What is the #1 reason people leave jobs today? What do y'all think? Oh my goodness, I'm already seeing a lot of answers pop in. I'm going to give us about 10 more seconds to get our answers in here. Good, I'm going to close this out. Last 3 seconds to get our answers in. And I want to share these results with you all, which you should see on the screen. You know what? Now I'm even more excited to transition into this next piece because it may surprise you. 59% of millennial and 41% of baby boomers and Gen Xers say that opportunities to learn and grow are extremely important to them when they're looking for a job. Now, this leads us right into our second KPI, that only 3 out of 10 of our employees strongly agree that someone at work encourages their growth. It's human nature to want to evolve, right? To be healthier, to be happier, to be a better parent, to feel like we're good at what we do. And at work, it's extremely advantageous to nurture this innate human desire to want to grow, because our employees are significantly more likely to be engaged when they report that they're growing. And growth in the workplace means 2 things. 1, that our employees report feeling that someone at work cares about their development, and 2, that they report having the resources to live in a happy, healthy body so they can do the things they want to do and do them well. So how can we as leaders cultivate this? Just as with KPI #1, first we assess, okay, where do our employees stand? And we have the tool to do that. So next is address again. So now, as experts in the field, I know you all know this, that time and time again, the research has shown that difficult goals will cause burnout if we don't have the supporting resources. We can do hard things, but we cannot do them for a long time without the right support. So let's break these components of support down, starting with support for our staff's physical well-being. 15 minutes of fun exercise a day is the equivalent of taking an antidepressant. So a question to ask ourselves right now is, understanding the many benefits of movement, both physical and mental benefits, do my people have adequate opportunity to incorporate movement throughout their day so they can function optimally? In fact, this organization I was on site with just last month created a policy change after just 1 team walk that allowed for all salaried and hourly staff to take monthly walks together during lunch because they saw just how impactful this was. We can also host group exercise classes because when we bring our workforce together like this, the positive benefits are contagious. And another way to offer the support is through any kind of team building activities, right? So on our own, this may even look like taking the team bowling. I'm not kidding, as we know, if it's bringing our people together, it's valuable, right? Other support to consider are group workshops, like habit building workshops done together, even meditation classes, team coaching. I offer these to every organization I work with because it produces results like this. It gives our people the support they need to flourish. When I view this feedback shown on the screen here, The underlying message I see is I'm growing as a person because my organization really cares. Employees need to know that their organization cares about them as people first and as employees second. If we can double the ratio of employees who strongly agree that their supervisor or someone at work cares about them as a person, we can realize an 8% improvement in patient engagement, a 46% reduction in safety incidents, and a 41% reduction in absenteeism. So finally, secret number 3, or KPI number 3, about half of our employees say they are not thriving personally or professionally. And if our people aren't thriving, how can we expect them to do great work? My number 1 recommendation when it comes to adequately addressing this KPI is instilling some type of mentorship program. And here's why. One meta-analysis made up of 166 studies discovered that employees who had mentors had substantially higher performance. They demonstrated higher cooperation with their coworkers, heightened motivation, reported having healthier habits, and reported an intention to stay with the organization at a much higher rate than those who did not have a mentor. Mentors have the ability to positively impact the trajectory of our careers and even our lives. And there are tons of ways we can bring this opportunity to our people that does not require a lot from us. And again, if you're curious about what this looks like, just reach out after this and I would be happy to share how you can implement this within your own organization. When we provide our people with tools to help them thrive, something that may seem as small as a group gratitude journal like shown here, which by the way is another fun thing to bring into your workplace, these systems all add up as little pieces to a puzzle to help our people be and do well. So we just covered a lot, so let's take a minute to review real quick. KPI number 1 we explored is our employees' opinions and expectations. And we want to make sure our people know that their opinions matter. We do this both in passing every day and systematically by implementing assessments and focus groups. This sends our people the message, hey, your opinions matter here, and it gives us an opportunity to implement their feedback, which by the way, often just looks like making a few simple tweaks. And best of all, when our people know that their opinions matter, we can expect to see a 10% increase in productivity and have employees that are 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered to perform their best work. Next, we talked about employee growth, which is all about offering the right support for our people's mental and physical development. This is critical because when our employees' physical and mental health improves, it improves their mood, their immunity, and their ability to learn effectively, all of which positively impact rates of dedication and enthusiasm, and this creates engagement. And finally, number 3, we want to help our people thrive, of course, right? Thriving employees have 53% fewer sick days, and they report caring more about their work. So what we've uncovered thus far are pain points that, as we saw, most employees have, and that if adequately addressed will boost employee well-being and the likelihood that our employees will stay with us. But I know that was a lot. I want to check in with y'all. How many of you may be feeling a little like this right now? If you are, put a 1 in the chat. Let's touch base. Like this is a lot, and I know it's important, but this is a lot. I don't have the time for this. So again, you can throw a 1 in the chat if you are feeling like this right now. And if you are, know that I totally get that. If it feels like I'm just breezing through this, it's because I do this daily with organizations, but I understand it may sound like a lot to add on top of everything you already do in a day. So if you take nothing else from this webinar, but grab your copy of the HC3 and share it with your staff, that's a great place to start. Research has shown that the more transformation actions a company takes, the greater its chances for success. But again, if this all feels like too much to do, just start with the HC3. So now I invite you to go ahead and throw your email in the chat, and then I will personally email you your organization's own link to the HC3. I will even send it in an email that you can blast out to your staff. So all you have to do is copy and paste that and blast it to your staff. In that email, it will explain A, what you're asking your staff to do, and B, why you're asking them to do it. Remember, the best people go where they can make the most difference, which is why we need this data. What is our well-being and engagement data telling us? And do we have a means to gather this data? And if not, then this tool is absolutely for you. Now, finally, what I shared with you today is the kind of information I share in my bi-weekly wellness newsletter. So we will send the sign up for the newsletter in tomorrow's email when we say thank you so much for coming to this webinar, but that is also in the chat. So the sign up link for that, I know we're trying to get that in the chat, so you should see that and have an opportunity to sign up for those newsletters right after this if you benefit from this kind of information. And again, if you do nothing else from this webinar but implement one thing, I hope it's the HC3. Reach out and let me know how I can help and or if you have any questions. I know we're coming up against our time, and it's really hard to summarize on one slide why this programming is both so important and effective. So here's just one little snippet that really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with you too. That 89% of workers at companies that support well-being initiatives are more likely to recommend their company as a good place to work. So with that, here are our next steps. Again, make sure you grab that newsletter and put your email here to receive your free copy of the HC3 assessment tool. That is a great first step. And we have a few leftover minutes for questions, so I will hang around if anyone has any questions. And thank you so much for tuning in, and definitely reach out if you have any questions. Thank you all so much, and I will talk with you soon.